screw Cuba, right? Don't care about Cuba. Maybe we got infected by Mexican virus. Now we're better than everybody else.
I'm not afraid of anything anymore. If I die, it's good. But it seems like stories always come up.
Okay, you were my first love. So, of all the places we lived in, what are your top 3 countries? Hey, wife.
Hello.
So, we've been living in quite a few different places. I did a quick calculation before this, and we lived in we've been to about 30 to 35 countries, depending how you define countries, depending how you define territories, right? Whether Scotland and Wales and England are different countries, or it's part of the United Kingdom, or Hong Kong is different from Macau to mainland China, but we lived in a bunch of places. And we've been working remotely while living in those places. We're from Asia, Philippines, I'm from Europe, Latvia. And we lived in a bunch of different continents as well. And so after having this experience, 5+ years being kind of nomads, which I think is fairly represented where we are right now. We're nomading on my somewhere on the floor in some flat in Latvia.
Okay.
What are the top 3 countries? Actually, before that, what is your favorite continent to live on? Because we lived on 4 different continents.
I know.
Right? Yeah. Depending how you define continents, of course.
Yeah.
For example, in Argentina, they say there's only one continent, America. There's no North and South America, it's just one, America.
Yeah.
But here in Europe, and I think in Asia, we say North and South America. So we've been to all of them. Well, outside of Africa and Australia, I guess. Which one is your favorite?
Obviously, because we've lived in this continent for a long time, I would say Latin America. But
Latin America is not a continent.
Wait, what is a continent? Goodness, am I dumb now? This is already embarrassing. Okay, I'm just gonna say Asia. Because it will always feel, homey. But it's obviously not like the best place, I would think, to live for, like, permanently.
So Asia is your favorite continent to live on, that you've lived in so far?
Favorite continent, yes. Okay. If I had the money in the world and Asia.
So you're just basically homesick all the time?
Okay, I don't know how to answer that. I want to hear your answer first.
Well, I would say probably South America, because it's just the most fun, interesting, unusual place, but it's kind of not too crazy, not too weird. And, been to a bunch of places and we'll talk about them, but I feel like Colombia is like the homiest home we've been to. Maybe not the best country, but it's like the one I feel the most comfortable. And you've been to Bolivia, right? Completely different.
Yeah.
Argentina, completely different from those 2, right? Been to Brazil, to Rio, completely different from those 3. And we haven't even been to all of them yet. And within those countries, there's countries within countries and regions and whatever. So I would say South America.
Okay. Me too. No. Well, I thought about that, right? When it definitely was the comfiest and you got everything. But if you would have to consider, for future with family and stuff, do you still feel the same way about South America?
I mean, that's a different question entirely. If you consider having a family in the future, I don't know then. I mean, I don't see any reason why any of those countries can't be the place, because they all have nice, rich environment, good private schools and all this kind of stuff. It's just depending how much money you want to spend on it, right?
But we've talked about it before. Europe or richer countries definitely have more opportunities, less risky, less dangerous environment to grow up in.
Sure.
But
I don't feel very strongly about that now after living there for a while, right? There's definitely more danger, but that danger feels more localized in specific areas. Okay.
Anyway.
So before we go completely off topic.
Yes.
Right, it's about which country is the best place to raise a family in, etc., etc. of all the places we lived in, what are your top 3 countries that you enjoyed the most?
I have to answer first. Okay.
I don't make the rules, but
I know.
as a captain,
Yes.
I will make the rules today.
Okay. Well, top 1, or no, it's be top 3. Sorry.
So the 3rd place, then
Yes,
2nd,
sorry.
and 1st.
3rd
Don't
place.
spoil. This is not Eurovision video anymore.
Peru was, I don't know. It's a nice place, but I know how you feel about it, like all the noise. But taking into account like what's it called? Just the places or the variety of cities to visit, and they're all very different. It was very interesting, and well, the weather also is nice, and obviously the food as well is really good. So it was still enjoyable. I know that people also, in general, may not be as kind of welcoming or friendly, but we did meet also Lewis, right? Or we did meet some friends when we stayed there. So yeah. And my second.
Hold on.
Okay.
Let's do. You do your 3rd. I do my 3rd, right?
You're right.
Make it more interesting, maybe more gamified. Okay, so the question is, how do we define lived, right? We spent.
What do you mean you?
Yeah. What do you mean you? What do you mean?
What do you mean you? What do you mean believe?
Define, what do you mean by lived? Like, for example, I spent a whole month in Japan, right? Would I say I lived there or not? I mean, that's probably some borderline, was I working while I was there? No, I wasn't, but I spent enough time to kind of get used to things, right? And after traveling a bit, there is value in places being different, right? Just different to where you've been before.
Okay.
And things being quite a bit different. And that's not always the most pleasant thing, right? Like Argentina was quite unpleasant in a lot of things.
Yeah.
With this money thing, with this kind of excessive nationalism, with flag waving, with we're better than everybody else. But also it was sufficiently different from other places where that felt distinct, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and I'm not sure necessarily I would want to live in a place like that, but there's some allure, there's some mystery, right? And so, what are the weirdest places we've been to? Cuba. Screw Cuba, right? Don't care about Cuba. Cuba can go away somewhere else and never exist. Bolivia. Bolivia was very unusual, quite enjoyable as well, fairly comfortable despite its weirdness. Argentina was pretty weird, right? Japan was very weird.
Yeah.
And if let's say, for my top 2, I'll choose the countries that I actually feel very warm to. But
also, I'm gonna pause you. You also said which countries were the most enjoyable, right? The word enjoyable, my mind immediately jumps to prioritizing, the travel opportunities where you can see.
Like comfort and other things. Well, I guess that's the question of how you define, right, these words. It's just maybe kind of, after you've left the place, maybe you forget about some of the problems, right? And you're just kind of left with impression, and it's all a bit esoteric and vague. So looking back at it now, I'll say probably Japan is one of the more interesting ones. I would never want to live there, I don't think, right, for a long period of time. But visiting was fascinating, especially second time round. And there feels like there's so much more that I haven't seen. As with, many countries, I feel like, hey, I've seen enough. I get the impression there is it feels like almost an infinite hole of just things to see. Right, we've been to Vietnam, for example. Love Vietnam. Amazing place. I've been to Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh. But I don't feel like there was a lot more. I mean, there is, but I don't feel like that, right? With Japan, I feel like there's a lot more that we haven't touched. And it'll be cool to explore, in terms of enjoyable. And again, it's not the best country to live in. It has all sorts of problems, right? Anything to tell you about how it's impossible to integrate and the language issues. But in terms of that impression, there's more and it's enjoyable, it definitely felt like that.
Japan.
Yeah.
Is yours number 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
So do you feel betrayed?
No, I'm just.
You didn't know my answer? That you're surprised?
No. Well, it was just interesting that you said Vietnam didn't make you feel that way, whereas I would think, well, people were mentioning how different Chiang Mai is, which to me is also good too.
I think it would be silly of us to even like we've been to Colombia, for example, right? And we've seen a lot of it, but it would be wrong of us to say like we know all of it. And the same with Vietnam. I'm not saying I know, of course not. Been to like two of the biggest cities in the country and traveled a little bit outside. And there's obviously tons, but it's a country with like whatever, tens of millions of people, right? But the feeling, like, is there more to offer? Of course there is, but it doesn't feel as vast and mysterious, as interesting to explore as much
Okay.
as it would be in Japan, right? This is all comparative and entirely unfair and biased and subjective.
Okay.
Let's go to number 2. I guess before we do that,
Yes.
Peru. Peru is awesome.
I
Peru is
know,
lovely,
it
right?
is.
Um,
And we actually stayed there.
we stayed there for a long time as well, and we've been to different parts of the country. But the honking
There's
is
no honking in Cusco.
insufferable. There's something about the culture of car driving in Peru specifically, which is not the case in other countries. It's not all Latin America is the same, but they love the honking. And because it's a like hot tropical country close to the equator, we lived in an apartment close to Parque Kennedy, which is kind of central part of touristy Peru. And it didn't have any windows in places because of kind of airflow and humidity. And gosh, every day you wake up like 5 a.m. because the cars are honking to each other. It is a jungle, right? It's like
Yeah.
honk, 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 honk. And if you listen to it, it's the communication
Yeah.
across the whole city. And it's fun for about 30 seconds until you can't fall asleep and you have to have your earplugs or noise canceling headphones. And you walk around, you just hear these loud honks everywhere at all times. It's so frustrating. And even though the country's amazing and the food is probably the best in Latin America, right? And some of the nature stuff is absolutely insane. The Huacachina, the Machu Picchu, the Cusco, the whatever, Arequipa is incredible. The Lima, so Peru is associated with Lima for me, which is the capital, right? And like if you're gonna live somewhere, you probably live in Lima, and the honking just makes it.
There's no honking in Huacachina, Cusco, but it still left that strong
Yeah,
of an emotion on you.
like without that, I
Despite
would go
other
there again
cities.
with no problem. It's an awesome country, absolutely right. But we gotta push it up to top 3. So you have to make some sacrifices.
Okay.
Your number 2, please.
Yes, of course. Well, I think this is obvious already. I think Mexico.
Oh, oh,
No.
what a surprise!
Right. Oh my god, just saying that, the first thing that pops in my head is already Louis Burger. I'm sorry. I know our friends are also really good there, but that's my first priority. Obviously, right, if city specifically, Guadalajara felt very homey actually. Like I do feel from time to time like a feeling of homesickness as well.
Mhm.
Of that apartment we stayed twice, right? So yeah, I feel like yeah, like I feel like every time we go back, it just everything or all places seem a bit familiar. It's like it's good. We already have like a set of go-to food places or parks or I don't know, even grocery things. So yeah, I think the only thing I guess I don't like about it is first it coming back the second time, it just felt more, well, when it got a bit more expensive, and it just felt like it was becoming more and more like US or America, which I'm not saying that's a bad thing, that's good for them, but
Be
it
very
just
careful. You might upset some
it
people.
just doesn't feel like, I mean, I want it to retain, how do you say it? Like maintain its like Mexicanness, like.
I mean, I guess if this
part.
happens in Jalisco, which is the region of the tequila, the mariachi, right?
Yeah.
Then it's not a great sign for the rest of Mexico, the kind of Americanization. But
Yeah.
who's to say that U.S. is not Mexicanized as much as Mexico is Americanized?
Yeah. And also, like, I think after we left, also saw some more like recent videos on YouTube that the amount of like Americans living in Mexico City are increasing, but it's like probably like in a cafe, right? Like 80% are Americans living remotely.
Okay, it was
I'm sorry, working remotely.
obvious to me the answer, but obviously for people who don't know which city in Mexico. Mexico's a huge country, 120 million plus people, enormous country, full of different, cultural and ethnic and geographical diversity. But which city specifically you're talking about here
What do you mean with Americans?
in Mexico?
Yeah, I said Mexico
Did
City.
you like?
Oh, did I like? I already said.
Yeah.
Guadalajara.
What I mean, are there any others?
Oh.
Specifically Guadalajara?
Yes, I can't think of other places because other cities are, let's say, Guanajuato is very beautiful, but the other cities that we visited in Mexico just felt like it was a good place to travel or just visit for the weekend. So my base or our base felt like it was the best choice, the Guadalajara, and then just visiting other cities from time to time. That was really, really good.
I guess for reference, right? We stayed in a bunch of cities. We lived in Mexico City for a month or so. We stayed in León, we stayed in Guanajuato, we went south to Cancun, obviously, right? San Miguel de Allende, stayed in Villahermosa and a few other places, but Guadalajara felt like the best choice. It's like
Yeah.
it's got that Mexicanness to
Yeah.
it. And there's many more cities. There's Monterrey. There's whatever. Like, again, it's a gigantic country. You can pick up anything you want. But Guadalajara felt like a middle choice where it feels like it's part of that country. So I guess
You get the city feel, the modernness.
it's up on a plateau. There's like nature. There's a big canyon right nearby. Right, biggest lake, Lago Chapala, is right there. The biggest lake in Mexico. All the cultural events, the bullfighting, right, the tequila, it's kind of around there.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's if you think of Mexico, the stereotypical Mexico, whatever the stereotype you have in your head, that's kind of where a lot of it originates from. It's a big city, I think third or second biggest
I
city.
would say Mexico City would have what you were saying is representative of.
Well, you have a different stereotype of Mexico, that's fine.
Because Mexico City is closer to like all the what's it called, the main touristy Mexican things.
Sure. Again, it's all subjective what you think about Mexico. I grew up
And
on
also
a different perception of Mexico, maybe to the one you grew up in, right? To me, it's the people on hats playing mariachi music, right, and drinking tequila. To me, that's Mexico. And Mexico City is not that. I mean, it has that, of course. It has all of it, right? It's the capital, whatever, 20 plus million people.
Yeah.
But to me, Guadalajara is the center of that culture.
Okay. I felt like, not really. I mean, even now the people look.
Well, people in Mexico City are more kind of native, right?
Yeah.
Azteca.
Yeah.
And people are in Guadalajara are more mixed, where the Spanish Europeans have moved in, right? Even the name Guadalajara apparently means in Arabic the fortress in the valley. So it was not a city. Well, it may have been some precursors, but it's a city that was entirely kind of built after the colonization of Mexico.
Okay.
Like tequila is a process that the Spanish are brought in with distillation. So that is that kind of more of a melting of culture, whereas Mexico City feels more of like what authentic, native Mexican culture would be. And again, a huge generalization, enormous generalization. It's again a gigantic country, right? But it feels different to Guadalajara. Guadalajara feels more of that stereotypical exported Mexican culture to me personally, which is going to be different to everybody as well.
Yeah. Okay. So what's your number 2?
My number 2, I mean, we're going to trade places here, right? It's a really tough one. So there's going to be a recency bias, right? We went to Colombia more recently, and then Mexico before that, and some other countries before that.
Yeah.
I would say for me, Colombia is going to be number 2. And it's a tough one because after a while, after you've been traveling, like all your thoughts are kind of scrambled, and it's really difficult, right? Where if you feel good in one place and in the other place, then it's hard to distinguish where you felt better, right?
Okay.
So Colombia, we spent maybe about 2 years in total there. We lived there during COVID pandemic in Bogota, and we could leave the country for about 9 months, which was a strange time. Every country handled pandemic very differently.
Yeah.
Colombia, at least Bogota, did it in a way which was fairly strict, but not too crazy. So we lived in Bogota in Calle 99, and it's right by the military academy, military school, and there was a bunch of 18, 19-year-olds walking around with machine guns at past 10 p.m. curfew, not making sure people are not outside allowed. But even despite that, Colombia, and specifically Bogota, left such a huge impression. I would say most of your perception around what you're gonna like while traveling is gonna be, if you had a good time or not, and also a lot of that is whether you met the right people or not. And it just so happened that we met the right people in Bogota
Yeah, I guess.
at the time, and they made us stay 10 times better than it would have been otherwise, right? We've done a bunch of cool things, been hanging out with a group of people, which is very fun, renting apartments, going for drinks, playing tejo, which is a fascinating Colombian game, doing all sorts of things, right? And that made us stay like literally 10 times better. Colombia is a beautiful country. It's probably like number one on the price to value metric that we've had so far, right? The things that you can do there for relatively little money. Well, again, you can spend as much as you want. It's been incredible. Nature's amazing. It's right in the, it's got all sorts of things. It's got desert, it's got Caribbean islands, it's got mountains, right? It's got basically anything you want. Most importantly, the people were incredibly friendly to us there.
Yeah.
Made some good friends that we talk to this day, right? And hang out, and would love to see again. It's hard to go past it. I mean, I can spend probably half an hour easy talking about all the cool stuff we've done in Colombia, and in Bogota specifically, where we traveled, all sorts of crazy things that happened to us, including a dog biting me on the face and giving me a scar. So I had to go to the hospital on New Year's night to get a rabies vaccine and all sorts of things. But despite all that, beautiful, fascinating, would highly recommend to anybody.
Yeah. It's just funny when you said you can talk about probably another half an hour with stories.
Or more.
Or more,
Or more,
especially with our friends' stories.
Mhm.
Yeah. Anyway, another.
Okay, what's your number one?
Well, if that's your number two, that's my number one.
Okay.
But now after you pointing those things, like I'm
There are no wrong answers here.
I know, but it just makes me think, right? Like yeah, it's an incredible place, price to
Price to value.
price to value.
Well, price to quality, I guess.
Price to quality. Yeah. Was really good, and oh my god, the coffee. Yeah.
Colombian coffee is the
Restaurant.
shizzle. It's the
I
shizzle.
know. The restaurants as well. It's like, oh my god, they're really good. I think the only thing that bothers me a bit is just that, like, overall, is it really also safe, right? Like, we never had problems, and again, it goes back to like, oh, as long as you stay in the city, you stay in the richer areas, but it seems like stories always come up.
Okay,
Right.
there's stories that come up, but let's look at our perspective, right? Okay, objectively, Colombia is not safe, right?
Yeah.
But okay, so quick story time. We stayed in Rio de Janeiro for Carnival last year, right, for 3 months, and after traveling Latin America, I guess the Americas for 5 years,
Yeah.
Rio de Janeiro felt like the most dangerous place we've ever been to, like by far. Like I don't think I've ever felt afraid or concerned in Mexico, Colombia, or Bolivia, or Peru, or whatever.
Yeah.
But in Rio de Janeiro, I felt concerned almost every single day of my life there, right?
Yeah.
Even though it's beautiful, amazing, it's got its own benefits. And when we flew from Rio de Janeiro to Bogota, and we walked around at night on our own, it felt like, ooh, this is safe. This feels
I
safe.
know,
Right?
it's-
I don't know if it was, but it felt safe. We walked around the city center and everywhere, and it felt like such a. I don't have to wear this freaking stupid phone case inside my pants anymore, a little fanny pack, right? So with that in mind, yeah, it might not be. And we had some stories from people, right?
Yeah.
But us, I just remember that specific time, that first night back from Brazil when we flew in and walking in Bogota, like, oh wow, this is, this air of freedom, air of relaxation.
I keep mentioning also this, like after Brazil, I just felt like I'm not afraid of anything anymore. If I die, it's good. Really, again, going back to your question, the most enjoyable place to live in, definitely. Right. Still have access, as you described, different and more how to say it, variety. The variety of places and yeah, even Medellin, right? Saying Medellin, oh my god. It's really good. Yeah. That's my number one. What's yours?
Well, I mean, we're just going to be trading places here, aren't we? Mexico.
Sorry, my number one is Philippines.
Okay, sorry.
I'm joking.
Number 0 is Philippines, of course. My number 1 is, of course, Latvia. That's the best country in the world. No, I mean, Mexico was just, it is incredible, right? And it's the first country we stayed in Latin America for a prolonged period of time. Panama was first, but Mexico we stayed in for a long time. And we stayed in Mexico City and then Guadalajara. And again, we talked about this before, but like the people you meet kind of make the stay more so. But in our trips, right, we stayed in Guadalajara for the first time. We didn't meet basically anybody that we hang out with, right? And we still wanted to go back the second time around. The second time we met more friends and we made some really good people that we talk to this day.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful. We'll go back anytime. But the fact that we came back to Guadalajara specifically, even the second time around, kind of implies that there was something. And it's very easy to forget, right? Because again, time goes by, your memories meld. Like, we've been to Bogota like, 2 times before we stayed there or something. And the memories meld together, kind of what works and what doesn't. But in Guadalajara, we stayed there for 6 months, right?
Yeah.
And then we left and then we came back again. Okay, it was the same apartment, whatever. And I just remember that it's the place where it's like the right combination of fancy and weird and friendly and unusual, and you feel like you're in a truly different place.
Yeah.
Nature-wise, there's all sorts of cool stuff there, right? Guadalajara specifically is like, I think 2 kilometers above sea level. It's got this canyon. You can drive around anywhere. You can have some amazing nature with lakes and unusual stuff. The food is incredible. Mexican food is like,
oh my god.
And we didn't even discover Louis Burger, which is like the best burger we've ever had anywhere ever on our first trip, and we still wanted to go back there, right? I just remember this, the Providencia, the area we stayed in, just walking around when it's a hot day and you kind of try to hide in the shadows. It's just so wonderful. It's just so wonderful. There's
Pokemon Go days.
Yes, when we used to play Pokemon Go when we were young and unburdened. There's something about this, right? Later on, as we traveled some more, we kind of understood the place, the cultural space that Mexico has in the Latin American world as the biggest Spanish-speaking country in the world. And, what it means with we didn't speak good Spanish, or I guess we still don't speak good Spanish now, but we didn't speak any Spanish before. But the slang, the words they use, right? The intonation, the colorfulness, the personality, everything just really works in there. And I think I probably had more fun in Colombia. I have probably more friends and I feel more warm in Colombia.
Yeah.
But Mexico is just like, it just feels like it's a half a step above.
Oh, yeah?
Right? Just because it's like, it feels more than just a country, right? Like, maybe I grew up, and I wouldn't say idolizing Mexico, of course not, because, it's too far away. But it's like, it feels like something slightly different, with its telenovelas, right? Or the ranchos, or the cowboys, or the, I don't know, something around that regard, or drinking tequila or wearing the big hats or something around you. But you go there, it's like, it's real. It's real. It's a real place, and it doesn't feel like a real place, but it's a real place, and it's an amazing place.
You're kind of treating it though as or the way you describe Mexico is like your first love, because it's like it was actually. I mean, I feel like because it was.
You were my first love, so.
Because it was the first country that we.
To be fair, Panama was the first country we stayed in, and I don't feel any warmth towards it.
Would you count it as like the proper?
We lived there for 3 weeks. I mean, that's not nothing.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's living, really.
I would say so.
Okay.
I mean,
I mean,
went to the
I think
Carnival, right? We
Well,
had my phone stolen there. I had my phone stolen in Mexico as well, and you know, I don't feel bad about it.
yeah. Well, because we did the proper, or for, I wouldn't count Panama because in Mexico we did the proper like search of places, and then actually went through the process of like, oh, we're gonna find things for place for our rooms and stuff, looking for places, and then had it in mind that we're gonna stay in for 6 months. So to me, that's proper living, and that felt like it was the That's why I'm referring it as like the first proper
Okay.
compared to
Well, your first proper one was then High Wycombe in the United Kingdom,
yes.
in England. And I don't think you feel a lot of work and love towards that
No, but
apartment. So apartment room, I mean room.
Yeah. We're just talking about you.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Because also my number one was Colombia, not Mexico. So I'm just saying that the way you describe and for me that's the reason why you're placing it as your top one.
So what you're saying is that Voodoo Burger is better than Louis Burger, and I don't believe that to be the case.
Wait, Voodoo Burger is better. Actually, remember we talked like Voodoo is something I could have more often than Louis.
Louis is
But Louis is the best.
luxurious, yeah.
Yeah.
It is just incredible.
Yeah.
A quick story time for those people who don't know. All right. Everybody says they know the best place for any type of food.
Yes.
Right. And you know, of course, I understand that. It just so happened that when we traveled, we got into burgers and we started eating burgers everywhere we went. And you know, typically the process is to go, you know, whatever, Google top 10 burger places and whichever city we're in, right? Whether it's Buenos Aires or I don't know, somewhere in Bolivia, or if you're in Lima, in Peru, or you're Cusco, whatever. And specifically, we had a bunch of burgers in different places. And when we stayed in Bogota, we found out there's a thing called Burger Master, which is a week where a bunch of different burger places, you know, up to 100 or more, sell a burger for like $3. Just one burger for the whole week. Just one, their best burger, right? Whatever they want to promote. And we would go and would have, I don't know, 3-4 burgers a day in different places. So 3-4 different burgers in different places. And we've tried so many burgers. And so on a second trip to Guadalajara, we discovered Louis Burger. Louis Burger is incredible. It's like the best thing ever. And when we travel, like we had some more and more afterwards. And you think, well, was that Louis Burger really that good? Or, you know, it was just like, you know, you're hungry, it's your perception, and you didn't have a good burger before. So we went to these Burger Master things, where 3 or 4 different burgers every day, different countries, different whatever. Then we come back to Guadalajara and we have Louis Burger again. And it's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, there's an extra layer to this, right? It's our perception, because that's just us.
Okay.
Maybe we're biased. Maybe we're, I don't know, weirdos. Maybe we got infected by Mexican virus. Now we're secret Mexicans, right? Who knows? But I invited my friend over from Latvia to come over to Mexico, to Guadalajara.
Who's gonna?
Yes, who wants to try tacos and chilaquiles and, you know, all the kind of stuff, right? And he comes over and I tell him, hey, you want to try the best burger you ever tried? Right? And his wife absolutely understandably he goes, everybody says that. Everybody says that the best, whatever. Let's give it a try. We tried it. They spent 1 week in Mexico, right? From those 7 different lunches, 3 of those were Louis Burger.
Yeah.
And there was one specific day after we had it twice, we wanted to go to I forgot the name of the taqueria, which is supposedly the fastest taqueria. Which one?
Carne Garibaldi.
Yeah, Carne Garibaldi, the fastest taqueria in the world, fastest serving, and it had a gigantic queue of people. We just kind of stood there, and I said, "Louis Burger," and everybody said, "Yeah."
No, actually, they were the one who suggested.
Okay,
They don't
whatever.
mind.
My story is more colorful
Yes.
that way, right? And went there, and as a consequence, right, my friend, who may be watching this, which would be nice, went to Latvia, to Riga, and went top 10 best places for burgers.
Yeah.
Right, and took us there, and none of them were pretty good when we came to visit it. What we're here now. But none of them are as good as Louis Burger, which is a weird thing to be fascinated with while traveling. But sometimes it's like the one little weird thing that really like ticks you, right? And it stays with you. And Mexico is worth visiting outside of Limburger.
Yeah.
But if you're in Guadalajara, have some Limburger.
Yes. I'm happy that we've also just visited probably the best burger places in Latvia already because of it.
Yeah.
That friend.
If you know any good burgers in your country and you want to sponsor us to try it, we may be open to it. Thank you. Till next time.